silly phrase you might remember from earlier in the course. If I have to do something once, I'll probably have to do it again. That being the case, you want to build flexibility and dynamic behavior into your reports as much as possible. And let me give you kind of a case study here. Probably about 2 years ago, I was involved with a company that made a school information system. This was on the side, outside of New Horizons, and they had a reporting environment that they created for their school information system. And a lot of the reports had real standard questions that they asked, like, within a school district, for what school do you want to get a report? For what teacher do you want to get a report? For what student do you want to get a report? With what class year or marking period? Things like that. So the average report had about, I don't know, I'm exaggerating, maybe 10 different parameters that would have to be selected, but this allowed for a much smaller report library because so much flexibility was built into each report. If this generally makes sense, give me a green check mark. If not, give me a red X. So we find out then that reports can be made very flexible, and over the upcoming pages we're going to take a look at first report parameters and then how to use them. Then we're going to take a look at query parameters, and we'll find out how they can really drive reporting hard. And then we'll find out how there can be some problems, I'll use the word problems, with query parameters, and the solution becomes filters at certain times. Alrighty, let me give a demonstration. Most of this will be demonstration oriented. And I bring my virtual machine to the foreground here. There we go. In a few seconds you should see that. Alright, so let me bring up a report. Alright, I'm going to bring a data set or a table into my viewing area. Let's just view it as is right now. Whoops. Hang on a second here. Well, no, we're going to do something different. Sorry. That's jumping a little bit too far ahead right now. So I need to first make another data set. Sorry about this. Okay, so basic report here right now. need to run this where it's not prompting me. Okay, this is what I wanted. So I have a report with no interactivity right now. All it does is just displays the data. Now, let's say, I'll be crazy for the moment here. Let's say that we want some sort of dynamic behavior. And let's say it is the background colors or the fill colors of the tablets. So background color, let's say we want to make it yellow. Or maybe we want the user to choose between yellow or green. So let's just say that is our circumstance. Now, one of the things that I can do is to create what's called a report parameter. So I go to parameters in the report data pane and I add a parameter. I have to give the parameter a name. So maybe I call this background color. Now notice I have a space here, and if I try to proceed, it will bark and it will say, sorry, the name cannot contain spaces, and it must begin with a letter followed by letters, numbers. Okay, so there are various rules, and I promise if you try to violate the rule, it will not let you proceed. Now when it comes to the prompt, you can type in a more complete name, and that can have spaces. And this is what will actually be prompting you, if you will, when we go to run the report. Now the interesting thing is, right now with my report parameter, I've defined a report parameter, but it's not doing anything. So it will halt. I will have to put in a background color. Let's say I put in some string, but it's not doing anything. It's not tied to any behavior right now. But because I did not give that parameter a default value, it halted before the report would be executed. So let's go back and do something a little bit more meaningful. This time around, we'll show how we could say whether or not we want to allow a blank value. Do we want to allow a null value, yes or no? Possibly, do we want to allow multiple selected values? All those are possible. Now, if I happen to choose a Boolean parameter rather than text, notice I see radio buttons instead. And if I go to my parameter and I make it a date time value, notice I'm going to get the date picker. So I can either manually type in a date, or I use the picker and then I can view my report. Now again, at the moment, there's no association between my parameter and anything actually in my report. But because I do not have a default value, it's halting before the report will execute. Well, now I'm going to go to available values, and I'm going to be the least efficient. I'm going to say that I want to specify values, but I need to make sure I change my data type back to text. So available values, I'll specify values. Our label will be yellow, and the data will actually be yellow in this case. Jeff, pick a second color. Okay, green. So I click on OK, and now I'm going to go to a property that I want parameter driven. So I'm going to go to the background color, and I'm going to make that expression driven. And I'm now going to use the immediate if function with my parameter value. So let me go to Common Functions. We'll go to Inspection Program Flow. I'll double click on Immediate If. Now I'm going to go to Parameters. No, I didn't want to do that, sorry. So if parameters.background color is chosen in the list to be yellow, then show yellow. Otherwise, show green. Now, when I go to run the report, I now have something tied to the parameter value. Notice my report stops. I'll pick yellow. And the background color is yellow. But if I change it to green, now it's green. Now, where I can do even better is to give a default value. Let's say we specify a value, and we say that the default is green. So this time, when I go to preview, it will not even halt. It will run because it has a default value, but I can change the value if I want to. All right, now let's go back to Management Studio. And in AdventureWorks, I'm going to make a quick table. Create table dbo.colorPicker. Color ID int. All right, color ID int. Color name. Varchar 20. Let me go ahead and make my table. Insert into dbo.color. Color picker. Values. So we'll put a few colors in here. We'll say red, chartreuse, gold. Let me get some of these color names. Sandy, brown, Peru, oh, you know what? I didn't supply an identity value. Alrighty, now we're going to make this, we're going to raise the bar here. Now, instead of having to make the available colors supplied from a handwritten list, we're going to make a data-driven parameter list. In order to do so, I now need to make another data set. So I'm going to call this data set color picker, and actually I often will prefix a parameter query like this, parameter color picker, select star from dbo.colorPicker. So now what I'm able to do is to go back to the parameter listing, go to available values, and say that I want to get my values from a query. The data set will be parameter color picker, and we want to get color name for both the value and the color and the label field this time around. And when I go to set the default value, let's say gold is the default. I think gold is one of the colors. All right, now at the moment, I still have my background expression, so I'm going to have to change my background expression to match the selection that I have. So we have to make that change too. So now whatever our selection is from the parameter, that's what we want the color to be. Let's see if I spelled chartreuse right.